Hi, everybody.
Hello.
We're the Skeleton Crew. It's November 14th, and we're recording our August Q&A.
No, man behind the curtain. Man behind the curtain.
No, we're doing radical transparency. Thank you all for, first of all, your patience, and second, for your questions that we'll answer now in this format. Given that this is a patron Q&A video, I probably don't need to introduce myself. But if this is somehow the first piece of Skeleton Crew media that you've seen, welcome. I'm Dr. James Napoli. I'm a paleontologist, and I teach anatomy at Stony Brook University's Renaissance School of Medicine.
My name is Amelia Zietlow. I'm a PhD candidate at the American Museum of Natural History.
My name is Scott Johnston. I'm the vertebrate paleontology fossil preparator and technician at Harvard University's Museum of Comparative Zoology. I forgot my title halfway through there.
Silly Scott.
I know.
My name is Alex Rubenstahl, a PhD candidate at Yale University.
And my name is Dalton Meyer, also a PhD candidate at Yale University. And together,
we're the
Skeleton Crew.
Wait, we're the Skeleton Crew?
Us.
Many people say this.
Huh.
We are the Skeleton Crew. Look into my eyes. We're the Skeleton Crew now.
Excuse me.
I do like being the Skeleton Crew.
Yes.
It's one of the first things I say when I wake up in the morning. I get out of bed, I pet my cute kittens, I look at the sunrise, and I say, boy howdy, do I enjoy being the Skeleton Crew today.
Indeed. Well,
and answering some questions.
Yes. It's time, as James said, to answer our questions from August. So these are from our patrons. And thank you for the questions. And you're welcome for the answers.
Indeed.
No, here they come. Our first question for August comes to us from Gojira. And Gojira asks, if you were to design the Indominus Rex based on your own taste and / or how it fits with the themes of the movie, what would you make? So I will start because I've written my answer first. But I will just say that I like the design generally, so I don't know that I'd change too much. Frankly, I might give it some flashier display structures or some different coloration just to make it feel more designed as opposed to evolved. Something that, they would say, people would want this, so let's give it that. But the other thing is that I think I would maybe give it some kind of physiological flaw. Like maybe it's completely reliant on some kind of dietary supplement. This is like the lysine contingency, right? But not intentionally made. It's not something that they put in as any kind of safeguard. It's just something inherent to it that makes its existence difficult kind of by default because it was designed and not something that evolved from something else that, they're like, we were able to cobble together all these features of these various theropods to make some cool animal. But, we're a greedy corporation and we didn't think things through all the way. And also this is incredibly hard. And so it also can't, metabolize like certain compounds or something that makes its life just tremendously difficult and painful.
I like that idea.
I do too.
I don't necessarily have like critiques on the look of the animal or like if I was to design it, if I wished it looked different. But honestly, I wish that they were like a little bit more on the nose with the theme that they kind of give lip service to in the movie, which is like this corporatization of dinosaurs and of wonder and of like this anti-capitalist like lip service message again that they have to it. And also kind of pay homage to another one of Michael Crichton's books. I'd put a big old corporate brand right on the side of it. Just have it be I'm sorry, Alex. Make it, if anything, like make it like a very cool, very interesting looking animal that just has like genuinely just a big old Verizon sign on the side of it.
Yeah.
And it's just big and gross and awful and everyone hates it. I think that would be fun because this is also a plot point that happens in Michael Crichton's Next, which is kind of sort of a spiritual successor to Jurassic Park, in that it's all about like the like screwing with genetics and stuff, and but in a slightly more grounded sense than just dinosaurs. I mean, it does have like fully articulate talking parrots in it and stuff, so it's not it's not the most grounded thing, but there are some plot points of just like, oh yeah, people are seeing like tropical fish that have like McDonald's golden arches on it, and in reefs. Is that you're doing, McDonald's? What's happening? So they would never. But yeah, that's what I would do.
Cool.
I think, honestly, I like it how it is, which I think I made apparent in the video that we made about it. Really, the only thing I could think of is they should have leaned a little harder into like the horns and spikes and stuff. Like they said it had, don't they say that it has like carno in it?
Yeah.
Yeah, like, okay, get a big bull horns. Like, go nuts with the keratin. Like, have a bit more fun. And, like, I don't know, behaviorally, like, I wish they would have made more use of it changing color, because it only does that, like, once, right?
I think, technically speaking, it does it twice, but it only does it impactfully once.
Yeah. Like, I think they could have had more fun with that. Yeah, they could have fixed its face a little bit and made it a little less
busted
and snaggletooth. Yeah, I don't totally hate it, because I think it works for what they're trying to convey, but I think they could have leaned more into the horns and like other like ornamentation type things, just to like have a bit more fun.
So I mean, I think I echo Amelia a little bit in that I think the main thing I see when I see the Indominus Rex is just like, it's actually remarkably restrained as a design. Like it aside from its arms, which have like 4 fingers and an opposable thumb, like if you had just told me, oh yeah, it's supposed to be some theropod that wasn't discovered by paleontologists yet, like it looks fairly plausible, all things considered.
Yeah, like a weird Allosauroloid-ish thing.
Right. I mean, it's got some Abelosaur stuff in it. It's got some, I mean, there's definitely language from a bunch of different groups in there. But that's fine, and that's actually cool. But I'm always kind of amazed that that's really what they came up with. So I would either make it like very crazy and maybe a little bit ill looking. Like I do like the idea of it being very obviously not quote unquote natural. But also with the chromatophores, why not make it that it was a programmable billboard, like to echo on Scott, but like build it up, right? Like if it could theoretically make any color, like have it that you're charging corporations for like ad time where you just got ads playing on its side, right? Like you show it the stimulus, and if you can like figure out a way that it'll respond. I don't know.
Oh my god, it's the Vegas orb, but a dinosaur.
Right, but I mean, really take this to its logical conclusion, right? Instead of making it an accident, because it's like, I'm sorry, it's a little bit stupid as a plot thread. They're like, oh no, cuttlefish DNA got in, and it's got fully fledged chromatophores that allow it to perfectly mimic any color around it, but no other problems or anything else with it. It would be cool if all of that was instead deliberate, and obviously is backfiring, but it's for this ghoulish purpose of advertising on the living animal, not with a static design, but with something that's actually like manipulatable. I
do like that idea.
I mean, it would be an evil thing to do to an animal, but they would do it. So that's what I say.
I think that we've said in previous videos, like having the idea of like the Indominus being a synthetic creature, that like this is like a Frankenstein's monster sort of thing, of like this is an animal that was created for a purpose that it doesn't know, and like it like very much it didn't choose to exist sort of thing, and it's in a bad way because we wanted to make it look cool and flashy and stuff, like the absolute mad scientist horror that you see whenever you see a pug, when it's just like, we shouldn't have done this to you, I'm sorry.
Yeah, but that would imply purposeful screenwriting. But anyway, Alex, what's your idea?
Well, everyone's kind of laid the groundwork of the things I liked. So I'm going to take it further. The design could be a little funkier. I think I'd like it if it were a little more sickly, or it felt... I mean, there's a cool part of it that I like, that it feels very much like it's an animal designed by committee, like the Jurassic World films and many other films where it's like, yeah, it could be more interesting. I wouldn't say it's bland, though, which it often gets accused of. I do like it. I thought of this only as Scott. Just the billboard thing was kind of what I wanted to say. And I was kind of thinking of this when Scott pitched it. But here's my ridiculous thought I'm going to put out there. What if you go back and the plot of the movie is this thing can only, it's kind of building on Dalton's idea, it can only be satisfied by consuming Pepsi Cola products.
Alex, I want you to know, as right before you said, I was like, what if it could only drink Pepsi?
Right? And like, what if like its violence towards park goers was then explained by it can't get the Pepsi. Where does it get Pepsi? People who have recently consumed Pepsi Cola products.
Oh my God! It's almost the plot of The Relic.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
with Pepsi instead of like whatever protein it was in that.
Yeah, it's something in the brain,
and that's it. And like the movie is like them trying to figure it out. It's like what is it doing? It's like, oh, and then they kill it by giving it the superior Coke product.
Hey, maybe they actually are doing this, and this is why there was that job posting the other day that Amelia found for the Pepsi breeder.
A truly vile sentence.
That was so funny. It took me a minute to figure out what the hell I was looking at.
I showed that to so many of my friends at work.
For context, it's basically a horticulture job.
Yeah.
For PepsiCo.
There's context to this?
You breed the Pepsi.
Yes. I make
no, I'm sorry. You breed the Pepsi. Yeah.
You breed the animal that the creature that we milk to get Pepsi. The creature featuring the
Does
creature.
the Indominus produce
Pepsi.
I'd like that.
It produces a pilk that is refined into Pepsi.
That's where you get vanilla Pepsi is. Indominus Rex milk.
RFK, please. Give us access to raw pilk.
Oh, we're gonna have access to raw pilk.
Listen, it's very easy to obtain raw pilk.
Straight
It's the
from
pasteurized
the
pilk, honestly,
creature.
that's hard to come by. Straight from the creature. Well, thank you, Gojira, for that question. That was very good.
Gojira.
That was fun to think about. Our next question comes to us from Ryan Wants to Die, and Ryan wants to know, was Dinosaur wrist pronation an inaccuracy by the time Jurassic Park came out? Knowing how accurate the movie was for the time, I doubt they'd let something like that slide. And I don't think we all need to chime in on this, so I'm going to take a step back.
Yeah, it was not a recognized inaccuracy at the time. Everything depicted dinosaurs with pronated hands. So they were doing what everybody showed. Every scientific illustration did that. I don't know what paper actually first made the point explicitly, like this hand posture we always show them with is impossible. But there were a series of studies in the early 2000s that did range of motion stuff where, like, from the ones I've read at the very least, they all say, yeah, they can't pronate their hand. So they can't do this into the bunny hands posture that dinosaurs always had in those movies. This is like as far as you get, and then you can get some motion this way, but you can't really do that. And that's because they don't have a rotary joint on the radius bone. That's a good question, though.
It is a good question. But thank you, James, for telling us about that. Amelia, I think your answer also to this is pretty cogent, if you'd like to share it.
Sure, what did I write? I just said technically it's always been inaccurate, given that the way that they would have held their wrist doesn't change no matter how it was depicted. So I think I was very tired when I wrote that answer. Also, when I wrote the next one. And oh my god! And the one after that. Look at the series of answers.
Oh wow! I mean, Amelia was on a roll.
Oh yeah, I'm the one jeopardizing the recording.
I don't think that we're
I'm not going to read the doc. Those things.
You should.
These are so funny.
They're funny.
They are very funny. But thank you, Ryan Wants to Die. I hope that now you know the thing you wanted to know. Our next question comes to us from the man with no name, who asks, what's the worst / most irritating part of running a YouTube channel besides scheduling when to record? And I will say that, honestly, the scheduling has been, for the most part, pretty stress-free.
Oh, yeah.
That's been the easiest part of all of this.
Yeah.
Well, scheduling recordings specifically.
Recordings, yes. For me, I would say that the worst / most irritating part is just the time it takes to edit the videos.
Same
This
here,
is very
Dalton.
time consuming, especially the sound.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Because like the editing the clips together and reordering things is just it's not mindless. It's like it can be fun to an extent. You get to hear old jokes and laugh again. You get to make some visual jokes if you're so inclined and have the time, which is also fun. It's really just the sound editing, at least for me, is I find it less intuitive and I'm less proficient at like knowing what all the tools are and how to use them best. So I feel like I'm kind of coming at it with like a cudgel as opposed to a fine instrument. And we've got some audio issues. I won't name names, but there are people in the crew whose audio hardware leaves a lot to be desired. And I will say myself included. I don't think I have the best microphone of the bunch.
Dalton, you're fine. Don't you dare blame yourself.
Blame Alex.
Hey.
And not just Al.
No, I know. Well, eventually I'll stop just typing clickety-clack in the videos, but today is not that day.
I will also just quickly piggyback on Dalton's there of the like I specifically find it's the startup to start editing always just it really demoralizes me. Like there's so many little specific things you got to do in a like certain specific order, and it takes so long that like once the video is going, it's going, and like I do enjoy like re-listening to them and like throwing in those visual jokes and finding good images and stuff like that, and that is fun. And I know I've asked James about this, but Dalton, I'm not sure if I've asked you about this. Do you have an experience like I do, which is that like it'll be like a series of jokes are happening, and then while you're watching it, you'll either think or say out loud, because I'm a crazy person, a joke to go along with it, and then you will say the same thing on the screen. Now they're like, look at that.
Great minds think alike.
I do that all the time of just like, I'll just think of just like, and then I'll just think of something and then I'll just say it on the screen. I'm
why do you laugh like Peter Griffin while you do it? You're like,
I think it's not so kind of what I said earlier. It's not actually the scheduling recordings. It's whenever we have to have like something outside of that time, because we've basically had the same recording time for well over a year, if not almost the entire length of the channel. Like it's always the same day and roughly the same time. Mm-hmm. So that's not usually a problem. What's a problem is when we need to meet outside of that, like for just general, hey guys, we need to talk about these things, or when we need to meet with other people about collaborative projects. And this is not like because it's annoying to collaborate. It's just like the benefit of having 5 people on the channel is we get to divide labor. The drawback is you have to coordinate with 5 people who are all very busy and have a lot going on. Mm-hmm. And so this can get really, I guess frustrating is the right word, because like some of these things are time sensitive and it's not really anybody's fault. It's just we are all busy because this is not our main job.
Haven't we only had one time in the history of the channel where all 5 of us were in the same place at the same time?
No, 2. So. SVP Toronto.
SVP Toronto was what I was thinking of.
And when I defended my PhD.
Oh, that too.
Mm.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
But yes, there have been precisely 2 times in nearly 2.5 years, right, that all 5 of us have been in the same place.
Yeah.
Right. So, yeah, at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah, so at least because I don't edit, I can't comment on that. But of the things I do, which like usually I wind up managing scheduling type things. So that's the main thing I think of being frustrated by.
Yeah, I mean, I think what everybody said, like, obviously, like, all of these things are stressful, like time in general, right? We're all super busy. We have a block where we record, and that is like, that's the time that we have, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, the reason that it's so hard to coordinate all of our schedules outside of that is like, this is basically the time window where we have time to do this, usually.
Yeah, we fill in our schedules around it.
Well, exactly. Mm-hmm. And we're all very busy. Being an academic, for any of you who think that studying dinosaurs is a relaxing career choice, no, it's not. And it's still not if you study squamates. What I think is the most potentially, like, the worst part of the channel is obviously that we're all friends, and like having this, when things are stressful, it can put some stress on our friendships as well. Like, we made a decision pretty early on that we were like, if we're really having trouble still being friends doing this, we're going to stop the channel. Like, we're not going to like keep moving through it. And I think that like after I feel like the first year was often rough. I don't feel like it's been I feel like we've basically gotten into a groove, and while like periodically there are times where I'm frustrated with somebody else in the channel about something that's gone on, and I'm sure that the same could be said by everybody else about everybody else. It's like, it's never, in the last year or so, it certainly hasn't reached a point where I'm like, I can't take this anymore.
No.
Right. But certainly, I mean, things were tough occasionally in the first year, and like, that sucks. It's just a crappy thing to have to deal with. I think we dealt with it fine. We're, okay, but like, it's a real factor of it. If you do any sort of collaborative project with friends in general, I mean, YouTube channel to like a lemonade stand, it's always going to be difficult, and there's always going to be that component. But I mean, hey, it also means that I can say, with certainty, like, we're a pretty great group of friends, and we were able to stick it out through getting this whole thing started, and now it's going a lot more smoothly, I think, as we've gotten more experience with it, which helps a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And I do like it has, in many ways, it brought us a whole lot closer together. That like I wasn't.
Yes, I slept in a bed with Dalton to record a video that'll come out shortly after this recording. You don't know about this video, Scott.
I guess not.
No, you do.
Were there.
It's when we were in Illinois. You had your own bed. I slept in a bed with Dalton.
Okay.
Right. Yes.
Okay. I thought that this was a recent thing. I was like, what happened at SVP that I didn't know about?
I actually always I make a point to sleep in a bed with Dalton at SVP.
Oh, I would.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. But yeah, like I was acquaintances with Alex before the channel, and Amelia as well. And now we're mortal frenemies. Actually, no, it's one thing I actually, because a couple of our patrons in Discord expressed some relief when it was like reestablished that Alex and I are good friends. At the joking, and I saw a video a little bit afterwards that just made me like honestly think back on that was talking about how the difference between bullying and just jesting in good fun is a foundation of respect, and like Alex has made it clear at many times that he does respect me, and these are all just
jokes,
and these are all just fun little jokes that like you can tell when it comes from a genuine place. And while he is accurate with his jabs, I know that I know that they come from a place in his begrudgingly good heart.
Why did James say "oh yes"?
Oh, I mean, you're accurate with your jabs about me as well.
At everyone.
Oh, in that I'm hitting on real insecurities?
Yes, I just cut those out of the videos. I leave the ones at Scott's expense, yeah.
Oh, well, thank you, Scott. I appreciate it, and I do respect you.
Of course. I respect you, too. Love you, man.
I don't respect Dalton, though. What a sack of shit.
And here
I
are
lose
the-
like that.
On the topic of the Peter Griffin laugh that James
Yes.
made a comment on in our last answer.
He did.
Our next question.
Our next question comes to us from Mr. Sukumimus, who asks, would Peter Griffin or T-Rex win in a fight? My answer to this is T-Rex.
I have to say, like, I think that it is interesting that Peter does have a history of fighting large aggressive theropods, but I think that Rex, it might be a bit too much for him.
That's fair.
Mm-hmm.
Other opinions? I have an answer.
What's
your answer?
Well, my answer is to answer this question accurately, we would have to look at feats that we know Peter Griffin has versus a Tyrannosaur. Unfortunately, I received the appropriate amount of oxygen in the room, so I never really got in the room. My apologies. In the room. Same idea. Yeah, I was a normal birth, and my brain was good when I came out, so I never became interested in the power scaling community. So I wouldn't be able to do that.
Your brain was good when it came out. That's a great phrase.
That's a Trumpian phrase, brother. I'm getting ready. I'm running.
How much prep time does the T-Rex get?
Yeah,
Right.
What are the feet? I'm not gonna do a rant. That's fine. Let's move on.
Just as a Tyrannosaur specialist, T-Rex does win with its 88 million Newton bite force.
Well, James, once again, kicking us off into the next question, which comes to us from Dino Dom, who asks, what's everyone's favorite Skeleton Crew related meme? 10 million Newtons, Alex bullying Scott, Green Iguanodon, etc. Which I think Green Iguanodon is a bit of a subsidiary of
I would say
Alex bullying Scott. But that was everyone bullying Scott.
No. I would say that if anything, that was Amelia got in the most devastating blows in that one.
yeah, that's a good point. She was
of the I just saw an eye doctor the other day. Did you get your money back?
One of the funniest things videos ever.
That's pretty good.
That was really funny.
My three favorite are the 80 million Newtons. It's tremendously funny. Pilk, because it happened to me, and I can still remember the smell of the Pilk. And then one that doesn't come up too much in the community. I don't think the community really latched onto this one, but I think about it all the time, and I think I say it probably once a week, if not once a day, which is jokes come in threes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That was very funny. That was early, though.
It was very early.
That was really early. That was in early double digits videos?
I don't even remember what
single
video that
digits.
was.
Might have been single digits.
Yeah, Alex really roasted my ass for that one.
Yeah, that's one of my. Yeah, I think I'd have to say jokes come in threes.
I say jokes come in threes all the time.
Oh man, yeah. I like a lot of these are classics. I love the 80 million Newtons. It's so funny. But honestly, the one that I've incorporated into my daily life the most is Amelia's Glupshatensis. I've used that in exasperated conversations with people, and it always gets a good laugh. It's you really cooked with that one. That one's very good, Amelia.
It's very funny.
It is also funny that we have a channel on our Discord of favorite clips that I do actually intend on going through and making a channel trailer for that. That might be a Christmas project for me. But every once in a while I go through and I revisit some old things, and I just got to say, nobody's saying this. God damn, we're funny. Holy crap. We're really funny. I'm like, even like little ones that like don't really get talked about that much. Like in the Tylosaurus video, when we're talking about how Tylosaurus had a pump action brain where it slid it's just rack its slams into something, racks its skull, a shell flies out and has another thought.
It's like, yes, I should go the other way.
Oh man, he's like, oh, I should kill another thing. Just, oh god, there. James's bit with the Instixosaurus of the bioluminescence.
Oh yeah.
That is where it's stored.
God, it's so good. It's so good.
I love our clip. I have not checked out our clip sections in a while. I do get a little jealous watching the clip sections though, because I'll always be watching them like, I remember saying something really funny after this, and I'm like, oh, it's almost certainly got cut.
Then you check unfortunately, Alex.
Represented. My sense of humor is underrepresented because most of my jokes get cut.
Well, a lot of your sense of humor is very well represented in our secret private bloopers folder.
That's so good.
Yes, a lot of it is there.
That's the $1,000 patron tier. $1,000 directly to me every week.
Yeah.
Not to pat myself on the back at all, but I think one of my personal things I said that I thought was the funniest in retrospect was in the blooper for Alamosaurus.
Oh my god!
And I don't know if we ever uploaded to Patreon. We need to.
Yeah, we did. We did.
We did. Okay. In the Discord or on Patreon itself?
Oh, in the Discord.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think we could put it up on Patreon.
Oh, yeah, we could do that too.
On there in a while. But yeah, when we were arguing about the meaning of the phrase of the Alamo lizard, and it was like, no, it's not the Alamo lizard, it's the Alamo lizard. It's just like, well, yeah, right. Why would I have assumed what you meant?
It was really funny. It
was funny. That's the one where I think Dalton said he was going to black out from that.
yeah, he did.
Which was very funny.
The Nigersaurus video where James is talking about like the inner ear and stuff.
Oh yeah, it's in your ear.
No. Oh. The specific term that you use.
Oh, sacculus?
Sacculus.
That's what it's called.
No, it was specifically the bit that we had. What was the other bit? What was the other piece of anatomy there?
The utriculus?
Yeah, it was Alex's comment of utriculus from your sacculus or something. And like we laughed so hard we couldn't breathe.
Did that make it into the video? I hope so.
It did.
Very good. Okay.
Oh,
we got
man.
good bits.
We really
Good
do.
question, viewer who asked this. That allowed.
Thanks, Dom.
I will say before you all forget that I didn't answer.
Oh.
Yeah, so I don't know. I was scrolling through our clips because like I don't remember most of them, unfortunately, just because. But that's my own fault for being busy and stressed. Obviously Alberta was great, like the original version of it, where I was trying to join from Texas, and it was a disaster because I also made a joke that we had to cut because I was really mad about Texas drivers, and I had a comment.
Oh, that was a good one. I
had several comments about Texas drivers, but also the vehicle that I was rented, and what I thought it might be used for. The other one, like. Here's the problem, right? Is like we've said this a couple times. Some of the funniest things are cut, and the thing that puts me in hysterics every time is we had an extended bit, let's say, related to Interstellar.
Yes. In the Stygimoloch episode.
Was it that? Because it was
the
best. So the best part about that, which I forget about most of the time, I watched it recently, which is why I remember. The best part about that is. The boys start like doing the Interstellar, like the No Time for Caution docking sequence theme. They just start humming it. And then at the end, Alex is like, oh, we can't keep that. We'll get copyright struck. And Dalton's like, we can't keep any of this because the topic was not appropriate for our channel.
It was not.
And that's the end of it. It's just, we're not keeping any of this.
It was really
Right,
one of the funniest things we've ever done.
It's just the implication that the thing that's going to get us in trouble is that we were so good at singing the soundtrack to Interstellar that it would get an AI copyright strike from Hans Zimmer himself.
Yeah, it's like, oh, those guys, they're a little too close.
That one I like. I also I do think that my eye doctor joke was good because that was reflexive. I didn't mean to be that mean. I just said it.
It was so funny.
It was so funny.
And anything, because like I sometimes rewatch old videos like in the background when I don't want to like. I don't want to listen to music with lyrics because I would be distracted. So it needs to be something I've like heard before. And like whenever someone makes a joke or says something where like Scott and Dalton specifically like start wheezing, I'm like it's just that is almost more funny to me most of the time than the actual joke.
It's so good. They're so good.
We have a lot of good bits.
Yes,
We're funny people.
A good trip down memory lane. And now for our next question. Insert nickname. Are there any old videos you would like to remake due to time constraints, lack of research, or not enough stun locks? Cough, cough, Styracosaurus. And I'm gonna hold true to my answer. I think the only video I think I'd like us to remake is Prenocephalae2.mp4. I think it lacks the biting social critique of the original Prenocephalae.mp4.
You make a really
seriously.
solid
I can't think of any that I'd really want to redo.
We actually did redo one or two of them over time. We had first recordings that we weren't happy with, and actually did. I remember we scrubbed Chinjausaurus.
Yeah, we did.
Re-recording it fully. Did it ever happen again? Because that one, I don't remember exactly. It was just vibes were very off, and it did not feel like a good video when we recorded it, so we wound up redoing it.
I think that was the only one that we fully redone.
Yeah.
Oh,
Albertosaurus,
actually.
Oh, Albertosaurus, yeah. Well, we didn't finish that.
Yeah.
Yeah, there were several that we started and then like decided that the vibes were bad or checked the calendar and found it was a full moon because like Kentrosaurus was a full moon.
That was
video.
Kentrosaurus, yeah. Oh my god. That's one of my favorite edits that we've done in the whole thing when it's just the like, Scott, what did you say? And I can barely breathe from laughing, and then it's just the technical difficulties and cut back, and I'm almost falling out of my chair with you guys going, you would not believe what Scott was just saying in the cut. That was so funny.
Yeah. The only one I would say is like Velociraptor I think would be interesting to do again.
That's my answer.
It would be 3 hours long with the way we currently do our videos. But again, the fact that it's like what, 49 minutes or something?
Something like that, yeah.
For Velociraptor. We did like 2 hours on Kentrosaurus.
Yeah, especially following some work, it would be nice to revisit it.
Well, yes, and I think we'll certainly make other videos about some dinosaurs. They won't be like ranking videos again. I don't feel a burning need to redo any ranking video because actually, believe it or not, dear viewer, we did not intend originally for the ranking videos to be a compendium of everything that's known about every animal that we feature.
No, we didn't.
We never actually intended for that to be what our vibe was when we recorded them. So there are a lot of videos, especially early on, where we're like, yeah, we'll talk about that some other time. That doesn't matter for right now. So there's certainly dinosaurs I want to talk about more. There's no video I would really want to re-record. Styracosaurus may be the only one, just because that was the last video we recorded. We did 3 videos that night, and it was the last one.
I got a call halfway through. Like it was a weird.
It was a weird night, and it's like it's short. And we were all kind of very transparently no longer having a good time while we were recording it, and just had to get it done. And like, yeah, that would be nice to have like a different one up on, but also like it's not like we lost subscribers or alienated our viewer base by having a video that was slightly weaker. Like they vary.
The idea of being asked to redo any of our videos fills me with despair I can't articulate. So that's my answer to that.
I had my thought actually is a good enough time after we finish this series, I think it would be really fun to try and recreate the first thing we ever did, which was rank all of them in one sitting. Because we know what we're doing now. And we already should know what we think. But it'd be interesting to go in completely blind and re-rank it and see if, like, a year from now, we still feel the same way about all of them.
Or maybe that'll be our Evolution 3 video.
Oh.
Maybe.
That's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
That's
just like
you have to understand, this was the worst thing we've ever done.
Oh my god,
it was such a mistake.
It was a death march.
It was like, what, 5 hours of recording?
It was over 5 hours.
It was 5 hours. I was falling asleep on camera, having micro sleeps by the end.
We simply cannot do. Like, if we made that video, if we did what you're proposing, Amelia, it would be an evil video. We would rewatch it, and we would all collectively say, "We can't show this to anyone."
Well, here's the problem: that means it would be funny.
No. I mean, like evil.
No, like truly evil. like our viewers would watch it and die. Yeah, damn it. Like our viewers would watch it and die in 7 days, kind of evil.
I hear my controversial, like, us doing these videos, we have not gotten better or more efficient about talking about these animals. Same about that first video.
Hey, we've gotten better.
We were doing a species every 3 minutes.
Yeah, that was wild.
It was wild. I do wish the original footage hadn't been like so corrupted and bad, because like we there were just file type issues. It's not salvageable. Like we've gotten a bunch of requests like, oh, release it as a Patron exclusive. No,
we would if we could.
Yeah. No, I tried to edit it for weeks. This is actually, I mean, maybe we don't need to let everybody behind the curtain so much, but I think it's kind of cool. Like, this was the genesis of us doing these weekly videos. I remember talking to like Scott on the phone at one point, and then everybody, where I was like, I cannot edit this, but what if we did an episode on each dinosaur separately?
Mm-hmm.
And now look at where we are.
Look at us.
Look at us. We have to do videos on Barbaridactylus and Pterodactylus.
Oh, that's the other one.
That's the other one.
When you were like, "Oh, this is our second to last pterosaur," I was like, "What's the other?" Like,
not our second to last pterosaur, because it's Barbaridactylus and Dimorphodon.
I forgot about Barbaridactylus because it shouldn't be in the game.
No, it shouldn't be.
But anyway, yeah, I tried to edit it for a while, and there were some funny bits in there. Like it was not bad in that context. It's just like all the footage was stuttering, things were out of sync. Like it was not salvageable technologically.
I really wish I could revisit the fight that you and Amelia had about Scorpius Rex. That was so much fun.
Oh, we'll revisit it.
We will.
I know.
We will rehash it.
Indeed. Our next question comes to us from Mayday, who asks, how does international collaboration in paleontology work? And this is another one that I think only a few of us are going to really weigh in on. I don't have any grand insights into this, to be honest.
So I have some experience with it. It depends a lot on what you're actually talking about. You know, international collaboration could mean what I'm doing, like right now on several projects. Alex is involved as well, where the researchers are like residents of or citizens of multiple countries. You know, sometimes they're working in the US, sometimes they're not. Like Alex and I are co-authoring research with colleagues who are, citizens of Mongolia and Canada. These are international collaborations, but not a lot's required beyond like we emailed them and we're like, do you want to write a paper? Like it's not,
not
it's
a
not
lot's required. James says.
Well,
some is required. Out of his ears and eyes, trying to set something up for months.
Yeah. But you know what I mean. It's not like institutional paperwork and some. Well, I mean, the one part of what Alex is doing is, but
yes,
like Alex and I are collaborating with Mark Powers on some stuff. Mark Powers and various other students at the University of Alberta. There's no like institutional paperwork. We're just working together. Sometimes, and it depends on the country and it depends on what you're actually trying to arrange, you'll actually have to develop what we call a memorandum of understanding, or an MOU, between institutions in different countries, where you kind of explicitly lay out what the responsibilities and expectations are. my understanding is that these are not like fully legally binding, but they are like kind of like pseudo legal contracts. Like, I don't think it is a word of law that you must do it, but I think it's a thing. It's kind of like a prenup.
Well, I mean, it depends. It
I think it
depends.
depends
which
also.
organization. So, like, for example, countries where like their fossil resources are more directly managed by the government, like places that doesn't matter what places,
Right.
like Mongolia, for example.
Yeah, China.
Yeah, like there it can be a legal document. In that case, you need to get kind of legal teams involved on the other side as well, just to make sure everything's on the up and up. And that can be, I am not a law person, so I've been doing something similar to that, facilitating something like that between the Peabody and another country. And it's not really anyone's fault in particular. It's just there's a lot of moving parts, and it takes a lot of like brain power and stuff just to keep track of it all. But it's doable, and everyone's interested and excited, so it moves. But nothing ever moves as quick as you want it to. It's about patience and understanding.
Right. And I mean, and that can be like for field work. For field work, I know it becomes a much bigger deal, but sometimes that can also just be for like a collaborative agreement where it's like, yes, we'll share resources, and maybe the institutions will agree to train each other's students or have like training workshops where they'll welcome people over, give talks. And what I mean by not a legal document is like, it's not like, I don't think you would be imprisoned or fined necessarily if you violated the terms, although that would certainly become a problem. But like that's what I meant by comparing it to a prenup more, is like it's a guideline for what's supposed to happen.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't happen, that's a document that can be referred to while actually trying to resolve what action then needs to be taken if it's not not agreed to. Like some institutions won't loan if they don't have an MOU.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right.
And that's for like research work. It's a little different if like the collaborative kind of work you're doing it, because field work can also be collaborative.
Yes.
I actually have in the section research folks take this, but I misread the question. I actually read it as, how does international collaboration in research work? Mm-hmm. So I could talk a little bit about the field work stuff, because actually all of the field work that I have either done or attempted to do or am planning on doing while I am at Harvard has been international. So
by invitation, right?
Well, some of it is invitation. Well, actually, no, because our situation with the Brazilian researchers was that Harvard applied for. Us at Harvard, Stephanie applied for one of these. Very broad, like very routinely available grants that a lot of older universities just have floating around, that are like, the qualifications are, in this case for the Harvard Lehman grant, it was basically do things with Brazilians, and it was That's a great
grant description.
Yeah. Well, because it's essentially, it's open to every department. And it's not just a biology grant. It's not just a science grant. It's just kind of like do you have a compelling enough research question to facilitate collaboration with Brazilian institutions? And will the grant funding agency find that a good enough reason to award that to you? And they did for us. So it was partially that like Stephanie had some really good ties with these Brazilian institutions and Brazilian researchers, and applied for this with this idea of that I won't get too much into, but applied for it with this interesting idea and won the grant. So it wasn't necessarily that Brazil asked us, hey, come down here. It was a fully collaborative of like, there's this opportunity. Why don't we go for it? And with Nova Scotia, I think that part of that comes with the fact that Stephanie's Canadian, and that she has ties at these different institutions, and some of her research area happens to have some really interesting fossil formations in Nova Scotia. And so then it just comes with collaborating with Nova Scotia and doing a lot of the permits and stuff, which I've had to do, even though we didn't successfully dig because of Hurricane Fiona, which was fun. But with that, it was a lot of just like filling in the paperwork, answering all the questions they have. They have a nice form to do it and everything. And then submitting supplementary materials. Like I highlighted areas in maps in ArcGIS and was just like this is our area of interest and all that sort of stuff. And then we have upcoming international field work that is, again, like a lot of it is just the logistical things of like who is getting the fossils, what are the different agreements that we need to come to for like not just who gets the fossils, but sometimes it can be more granular than that of like, okay, you can like you keep the holotypes or you keep the holotypes in the first casts, but we'll keep other casts and some data and some CT data and all of these sort of things. Like it can get very granular with a lot of this, and that is institution by institution, country by country. But it's also international collaboration is so incredibly common in paleontology that it's basically the rule. Like, I had the realization a while ago with the members of Stephanie Pierce's lab that I was one of the few Americans in the department.
Yeah, no, it's a thing. It's really common to be working internationally, which is I think one of the coolest parts of the job.
I learned that when I was on one of my I wouldn't say I was dying on the hill. I was preparing to kill my coworkers on the hill of Fahrenheit is the superior way to measure temperature,
which is true. Yeah,
which is true. Yes. I'm glad you all agree.
0 to 100, baby.
Huh?
0 to 100, baby.
Absolutely.
Wait, Alex,
give us
0 to 100.
Yeah.
Are you advocating for Celsius in this, or are you saying it's a better scale of 0 to 100?
Temperature.
Fahrenheit. Yes. Fahrenheit's better because you use the whole scale of 0 to 100.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. However, it's worse when you're cooking and you're like, oh no, I really want to relate the volume of water I use here to the amount of thermal energy it takes to heat 1 gram of it by 1 degree. And which is, apparently a reason to be using Celsius for your day-to-day life.
I see.
I've been told this. Anyway.
But, yeah.
Yes, thank you all for those, I think, very in-depth answers.
Indeed.
Yeah, I will say that, it well, I don't have as much experience doing international collaboration. Being in the field, it has been great that, like, ever since coming to graduate school, like, I now have friends across, like, who live, I think, pretty much on every continent. It's awesome. Except Antarctica, I guess.
Oh, wait, that does remind me of one very, very quick little anecdote I want to throw in here, which is it's a really interesting side effect of the skeleton crew that when I went down to Brazil to the Brazilian conference, I was recognized. And Stephanie was like, Scott, what?
We have this effect on younger people in paleontology, which our colleagues are repeatedly mystified by. Which is very nice. It means that we're reaching people, but it is cool.
It was very funny. It was like, I am in Santa Maria, Rio Grande do Sul, and I have met someone who is, oh my God, Scott, it's great to see you. And I'm like, what is happening? It was so much fun.
Oh yeah. And I think that leaves only one question.
It does.
It does indeed.
It leaves our last question for August.
Which
Comes to us from Kiyodoka, who asks, if you were to make a series reviewing the accuracy of all the classic paleo documentaries, how exactly would you do it? An obvious example would be the case of outdated reconstructions, or even just factually wrong ideas, cough, Jurassic Fight Club cough. And my thoughts on this were immediately probably what we would do if we were to do something like this. The wild thought of maybe doing something like this would be to discuss things segment by segment. A lot of these things are longish, and it's just more helpful to break them up. and mostly talk about what they got right and or kind of what the ideas were motivating the segment of like, we don't think this is true anymore, but the reason they made these choices at the time is because we thought this and that, because it can be very historically interesting. And I don't think we would spend as much time just being like, oh, this design isn't good. This animal doesn't look like this. I mean, we'd probably say that to some extent on a few things, but one thing that can be easy to overlook as someone who just consumes these kinds of documentaries is just that a lot can be lost in translation from what is at one point and may no longer be considered, but at least when production is happening, what is a legitimate scientific idea to the final result of a CG dinosaur on a screen. There's a lot of things that are outside of the control of paleontologists. There are a lot of things that are technologically infeasible at the time that things are being made. Not only does paleontological knowledge progress, but so does visual effects, so do television budgets. Like, there's a reason why it's taken so long, in part to get something on the scale of Walking with Dinosaurs to come back. It's because it's very expensive to do that. And so I think, something I've talked about in our Patreon Discord, but I'll say on YouTube for the benefit of everyone, is just that a view that I've come to have, and it's especially crystallized as I've gotten older, is just that it is not particularly, like, it can be biting and quippy, which has a place, but it's not particularly emotionally fulfilling to only be like, I don't like this. This is bad. This is bad. This is bad. So like even things that do have a lot of flaws, I think it's more interesting to kind of come at those from a like compassionate place of what are the motivations behind this, and like if things are right and they look great, that's wonderful. We can just gush and be happy. But if things aren't really in line with what we think now, or if something doesn't look very good, it's more fun for me to talk about, well, what did they intend, and what can we get from this, even though it's flawed.
Right.
That's my kind of. Those are my thoughts on how we might do this.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think like is perhaps obvious from the way I talk about a lot of things on the channel, but I think one of the most important things that you can do, especially if you're a young person trying to get into science, is to like learn to think scientifically, which is usually, I mean, I hate to say this, but like quite frankly, one of the least important things scientifically for our field is like, does this dinosaur look accurate? And I mean, I hate to say that on two levels. One, like if that's something you care about, I think as you progress in the field, you will find you stop caring about it as much. And I think, two, that would be an infinite mine for YouTube videos for us that we are not tapping. And a little bit deliberately, right? I don't really care that the general public is exposed to what we think dinosaurs looked like really that much, just because there is so much we can't know. That doesn't mean I don't want artists to try to restore things with as much scientific understanding as we have now, but I think like a documentary that exposes people to good scientific ideas or can get them thinking about the scientific concepts that are important is more valuable to me than one that just nails the appearance. I think this is like the core of why I really do like life on our planet, even though like I'm not going to pretend that a lot of the models in there really approach the highs of Prehistoric Planet. I mean, artistically, Prehistoric Planet is pretty much unparalleled in terms of the visual realism and accuracy and everything. But I don't think that it not hitting that high makes life on our planet less valuable, because I think it's doing a different thing that I think is fairly valuable. It's certainly the only one that I've heard people in the like real world talk about organically, which might just be that it's on Netflix. But regardless, that's like this is not intended to be a diatribe about that. But I think what Dalton has articulated is a really interesting idea of saying, like, how does science advance, and how do we see that encapsulated in these documentaries that, like, kind of by their very nature have to be a time capsule, right? And I think there's a lot to mine there. Like, I mean, even in Walking with Dinosaurs, right? They say that the female T-Rex is larger than the male. Like, that was something that was pervasive in literature for a while. There was no evidence for it. It would be really interesting to do a dive into why that idea actually got traction.
Yeah,
and I mean, like, kind of a spoiler with that. To my understanding, it's basically just by analogy with birds of prey.
I think so.
It's just in hawks and eagles, generally the female's larger. So everybody was like, well, makes sense that for T-Rex that would be true as well. But there's a lot to discuss there. I think that would be a much more productive thing we could do with that format than just like, oh, the dinosaurs, well, actually T-Rex had a boss in this location that would have been covered in keratin. So the profile of the head should look like this.
Yeah. It's like, I've always thought that it's fun to look at dinosaur documentaries as like a flashier version of stay with me here, like a flashier version of a natural history museum, in the sense of this is something that was made at a specific time and is reflective of the beliefs at that time, and is by nature of it being something that was made in a particular moment way more so than natural history museums that can be iterated upon and ship of Theseus in so many different ways that it's like, how much are they still the same thing? That looking at them through the historical lens is the more interesting way to do it. So yeah, I fully agree with y'all.
I'll just say I agree. Like, I think focusing on the negatives in that, like focusing on what is inaccurate, is not actually helpful and is less educational in the long run than pointing out what they did get right or the reasoning behind the choices that they made, rather than framing it as, oh, this is inaccurate, which is like, I don't know if you've noticed this, but viewer, kind of how we approach this channel in general, like even like the Jurassic World designs, like most of what we're saying about that when we talk about the designs themselves, is not so much focused on, okay, is it accurate? Does it look good? Or why did they make that choice? What do we think that's based on?
Right. And that's not to say we don't appreciate it when it's accurate.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's just, I think it's a way that we have deliberately approached things differently, or tried to, with the channel from other paleo media.
Right.
The only time that I've personally found it like fun and interesting to call out, like, this is something that is wrong, and just have that be just kind of a thing, and put in specifically with the context of just like all these guys couldn't see the future, is if it was changed like just after or during the production of that. Like, actually one of my favorite kind of offbeat examples of that isn't from a dinosaur documentary. It's from the new Animal Crossing game. That in the new Animal Crossing game, they have the museum where you can dig up fossils and put in all these different skeletons and stuff. And honestly, they're really, really good, if slightly cartoony, skeletons of all of these different prehistoric critters, and some kind of interesting, a little bit more obscure ones. But in particular, they have an absolutely stunning Spinosaurus skeleton. It's depicted swimming. It's this really, really lovely, more updated 2014 style Spinosaurus skeleton that's really, really well done. And I think that the game released a week before the Swimmy Tale was published. So there was like a genuinely like a 7-day period where it was like one of the most like well-researched and correct Spinosaurus skeletons that you could find in a popular thing. And then it was wrong in a week. And it was just like, no, it was just, I just find that funny.
Well, and I mean, I think there's also a difference between using the inaccuracy as an excuse to talk about like a scientific point and just nitpicking. Like, I don't know. Here's an example. I think that, and I'll keep this very brief, I swear, because the video's over. That was the last question, and I have to edit this one, so I'm making it mercifully short for myself. I remember seeing a tweet thread around the time Prehistoric Planet came out that the Velociraptor had, I think, the wrong number of primary feathers on its arm. Now, I think if you just say, hey, that's wrong, that's a picayune detail that I think is kind of unimportant. But there's actually something interesting there, which is that The number of primary feathers on a bird's wing is tightly constrained. All flying birds have 9, 10, or 11. Any deviation outside of that range is correlated with being flightless. And so I actually don't remember the count offhand, and this might be something we'll look into in another video, but we don't know how many primary feathers Velociraptor had, but given that it wasn't flying, it was probably more than 11. And so if the conclusion was Microraptor had, because Microraptor has in the range of a flying animal, this was published recently in a paper by Kiad and O'Connor, Microraptor has about the count for a flying animal.
I want to say the Velociraptor is 14. For some reason, that number's sticking in my head.
Well, and if Velociraptor had 14 in Prehistoric Planet, that's inaccurate if we say that's not what Microraptor, its closest relative where we know this, had. But that's accurate for what we know about the biology of Velociraptor, which is that it was clearly not a flying animal and therefore would be expected to have more primary feathers. Some inaccuracies, or what I'm saying is some inaccuracies actually have an interesting scientific story behind them that you can tell. Some things like, oh no, we think that actually there were large polygonal scales here because of something about the texture of the bone, and that's not depicted. There's not quite as much to talk about. And so, inaccuracy is a big word.
And the other thing about that kind of nitpickiness that, at least personally, I find unhelpful is that you're not, what are you teaching? Like, for example, the polygonal scales. Okay, what are we learning here? Which, with the feathers, that's interesting, but that's not something, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that's not something that nitpick, people making that nitpick were actually I don't believe so, but I do think that was before the paper came out about this stuff. And that's fine. But like,
so, I'm not going to drag them on that.
Right. No. But still, but like that kind of, that when I think about the quote unquote inaccuracy in this community, it's usually things like that. Like, oh, actually, it should have 14 teeth instead of 12. Okay. Explain to a child who's interested in dinosaurs why that matters and how that impacts our understanding of dinosaur anatomy and evolution. And then I'll care. Or think that it's a worthwhile endeavor. But until then, it's just, it strikes me as clickbait-ish.
And I think a lot of people are trying to, I think a lot of people who do this in the field are a little bit on the younger side. And like, I don't want to, I don't say this trying to disparage it, but it's a little bit showing that you're part of the in-group and that you know the like kind of the inside information, which is like something we all do a little bit. Like there's specific vocabulary we use in science that is mostly intended to show we're part of the science community. I don't think that's necessarily.
You're wearing band shirt? Name all of their songs.
Well, I mean,
you're a paleontologist? Name every animal.
Name all of the teeth.
Right.
Name all of the teeth.
Maxillary tooth, premaxillary tooth, denary tooth. I'm a reptile paleontologist. I know. But you know what I mean. It's showing, I know this information that non-specialists don't know. And that can be an important thing, especially if you're young in the field and you're not feeling like incredibly secure in your place in it. You want to show like, yes, I belong here. I understand that impulse. But I think there's a lot more you can do there, but there's also a lot you shouldn't do there necessarily. Mm-hmm. I want to also I want to be clear. I'm not trying to disparage the idea of trying to show that you're part of the community you want to be a part of. I was also young in the field once, did not feel secure in my membership in it, and certainly spent a lot of time telling my friends every inaccuracy in Jurassic Park T-Rex, every inaccuracy in a documentary, and all of that.
Oh, I've done that. Yeah.
I'm not going to pretend that I didn't do this for a large part of my life.
No, I mean...
You know what I mean? I'm not saying, oh, you're never going to make it because you don't realize this isn't important, but it's like we're kind of at a stage where I think we've seen other things we think are more important.
I have a theory. And it's going to sound a little bit like old man yells at cloud.
You?
I know. I think almost every young person or person who was young kind of since the 90s in paleontology has had a similar evolution to what James is describing, being like, oh, this is inaccurate. Mm-hmm. I certainly did. I think I remember posting about inaccuracies in Jurassic World when it came out. So, I was doing it up until very recent, like relatively. And that movie come out?
I mean, we were in college. Right? I was
right out of high school.
It's 10 years old.
So
2015.
Look at me post and cringe.
No, 2015. You're right.
It's freshman year, high school, of my undergrad. So yeah, but it is essentially and importantly something to grow out of. It is like you're in the field. You don't need to convince everyone that you know things because a movie got it wrong once. And I think a little bit. I think the stage where people are growing out of it is being kind of delayed or dulled by the constant positive feedback of like Twitter or its subsidiaries, where it's a culture of pedantry and like, aha, well, they didn't consider X. It is preventing people from kind of moving past this. Like, you're able to recognize that there are mistakes, but you're not mature enough to be like, okay, but it doesn't really matter. Which is important for all of us to do. That's my possibly crackpot theory.
I think that's a part of it. I also think there's like just weird. I don't know. People have a weird relationship with this stuff because I think everybody wants. What?
Oh, I thought you were going to say it's that there are weird people.
No. I mean, like, how many people love to see experts in fields tear things apart? People love it. I mean, like, how many major media outlets like Wired, all of these things do like the what is it like?
Oh, like professionals, like
like that linguist guy or the accent coach rather, who tears apart everybody's accents. Like, and he's been brought back.
I miss him making videos.
I feel like they brought him back like 6 or 7 times for like major videos. Yeah. Right, like people love this sort of content, but I think people then get very upset about it when it's a piece of media they particularly like, and so it's like. It's a hard place to be in for something like dinosaurs that are in so few pieces of media that statistically, like, you know what I mean? Like,
and most are bad.
and most are bad, but like all of them have inaccuracies, right? And you know what I mean? Like, we did one video looking at scientific inaccuracies in Prehistoric Planet.
Yeah.
I mean, they're there. It's a very well-researched show, especially compared to a lot of documentaries, but like there are certainly things that we did not really agree with the interpretation. We made one video, and it's like tepid reception. I don't know. It's a weird. I mean, I get frustrated because like the people who love guns will like find a particular rivet on a gun in a movie, like in the background. It'll be like, this completely threw my immersion because that shows that this AK-47 was made in China and not Russia, but it's being shown here. And in that country, they actually got all their AKs from through Belarus, who got them from Russia. And so that rivet wouldn't be there. This completely throws my immersion in the movie. And then
you can tell that this is a stamped, not a milled AK, and that means that
right. And then if like paleontologists are like, actually dinosaurs had feathers, there's like hundreds of comments of like, why are you ruining my childhood? And I'm like, the dinosaur's real. It's a real animal that existed at some point. And that we accept the criticism of the rivet on the gun. Anyway, that aside, the accuracy doesn't matter that much.
You should not accept
the
criticism of the rivet on the gun either.
That's the markings of insanity.
Yeah, that's nuts.
Well, rather, I mean, nobody gets up in arms about it, is what I'm saying. I'm not saying that that's a good way to interact with media.
They're like history, there are entire like channels of like history videos where it's like, what's inaccurate about like, I don't know, Patriots or the Patriot. A lot.
Mm-hmm.
But,
there's a lot inaccurate about the Patriots. They deflated a bunch of balls, and yet everyone loves them.
I almost said Patriots Day, which is a very different movie than the one I was originally
thinking. It's a very different movie.
Yes, it is. But right. Yeah. Anyway, like, this is to say, I don't particularly care about inaccuracies, but like there's also a very weird dichotomous response to them, because I think everybody loves to hear experts like lacerate something and like go off king about a piece of media, but also don't like that and think that it's very nerdy to do. And I don't really understand how to square that circle.
Well, it feels like a holdover from kind of the early and mid 2000s where like the genre of criticism was snarky, vaguely British complaining.
Or CinemaSins stuff.
Well, that's basically like that's for people with like dog brains. That's not like, I don't consider that even criticism. I'm like, That is the absolute lowest tier garbage in terms of like film criticism. I meant more kind of like, the long, like kind of the Plinkett video essays. And I'm a big Red Letter Media fan, but a lot of that like kind of obsessively negative. I mean, I don't want to blame stuff like that for the cultural moment we're in, but it's not completely separate from it either.
Honestly, I think it even goes like earlier than that, back to like angry video game nerd stuff.
Maybe. And I guess in the defense of Red Letter Media's Plinkett reviews, like, they're not bad. Also, like, the point of the character is that, right, like, he is supposed to be kind of an unlikable freak. Like, Harry Plinkett is a bad person, and only a weirdo would be this obsessed about Star Wars, which...
Yeah, I mean, isn't the subplot of all of the reviews that he's imprisoning a bunch of people in his basement? Like,
yes.
Yeah. Right, like...
We don't need to go too far into that.
The lore.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean... Not to make this a stunlock about RLM, and I think that the Plinkett reviews certainly created the ground for a lot of the way we engage with media now, just because they were so successful. I mean, like, celebrities in Hollywood were talking about them as like a thing everybody had to watch.
Yeah. Well, they also
they had a really big impact.
But they also only made like 4 of them. Like, most of their stuff is like very like good spirit, like fun, like it's fun, it's positive, it's like stuff they talk about stuff they like. And I guess if there was a takeaway for that question, like, what I would like our stuff to be is more like us discussing things we like.
Yeah.
Than being negative about stuff in media we don't. Which, if you want to hear me be negative about media, join our Discord.
Yeah, so that's a good plug for our Patreon, which is where the people who ask us these questions reside. They live in our Patreon. They do not have lives outside of it, as far as I know. But some of these people are members of Gorgosaurus tier and higher, and as a result, they get a shout out now. And those people are insert nickname, Benjamin Seepser, Philip Fico, Christopher Bellis-Jones, Aaron Anderson, Adam Olos, Black Spectral Pig, Blacklight Virus, Camphibia, Chaotic Kaiju, Dino Dom, Kevin Preem, King Zashu, Life Finds a Way, Ryan Wants to Die, The Wigster, Wanderer, and Wheat. Thank you all. And thank you to all of our patrons. Keep the good questions coming. If you want to ask a question for our next patron Q&A video, which may come out before the heat death of the universe, you could join our Patreon at Basilosaurus tier or higher, right? I'm not getting confused about this. So at Basilosaurus tier or higher, that's $15 a month or more, and you can ask a question every single month. Thank you again to our patrons. We could not and would not continue doing this without you.
Yes, thank you.
All right, goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.